Hello, my name is Shami Chakrabarti and I'm proud to participate in this virtual celebration of refugee tales. This is one of the most imaginative campaigns for one of the most important causes in the world today, the plight and voice of the refugee. Many of you who are kind enough to be listening and watching right now will have walked for refugee tales in the manner of pilgrims in Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. They, in part, provide the inspiration for this wonderful project where untold stories and perspectives of the refugee experience are shared, lest we forget that behind every statistic, almost designed to numb our senses, is the hidden figure and untold tale of a human being. If you haven't yet bought the 3 wonderful volumes of collected stories edited by David Hurd and Anna Pincus and published by Comma Press, they make wonderful presents. And all profits go to Kent Refugee Help and the Gatwick Detainees Welfare Group. This year's gathering is both strange and especially poignant. We're meeting this way, almost in the manner of science fiction, because of a deadly global pandemic that knows neither walls nor borders, and the lockdown that we have been living under in our attempt at containing it. Equally important to refugee tales in 2020 is the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement, catalysed by the brutal killing of George Floyd under the knee of an officer of the law in that great country of migrants, the United States, whose independence we also celebrate today. This context is important because during the tests, privations and losses of lockdown, where we've been missing loved ones and any semblance of normal life, or even the beautiful birdsong seems to taunt us, we surely have to empathise with those truly locked down, not for the protection of their lives, but at their cost. All of this in pursuit of an inhumane policy of indefinite detention without charge or trial for innocent people. They include large numbers of refugees and asylum seekers who fled death, disease, destruction and persecution over there to find incarceration, where there should have been comfort and refuge over here. And of course, a great many of those languishing in our detention or removal centres that are really modern-day private prisons are people of colour. So, in keeping with the strange cruelty of this moment and to escape this screen that we are sharing, I'd like to use what's left of my time with a short tale of my own. Here is the time traveller's tale. So much is made of individual genius, yet I've benefited a great deal from cooperation and dialogue in my life and career. I'm proud to acknowledge how friends like Marcel Grossman, Michel Besso and Nathan Rosen aided my understanding of the physical universe. My conversations and correspondence with Charlie Chaplin, W.E. Du Bois and Sigmund Freud, amongst numerous others, helped my understanding of our man-made and inner worlds. Yet, it's my still necessarily anonymous collaborator to whom I perhaps owe the most. For whilst I have been credited with outlining a path for time travel with my famous theories, it's she who made the most practical advances in this area and put them flamboyantly to the test, even to the point of coming back to discuss them with her forebear in Discovery. It's not my place to discuss her method. I've sworn not to do so, for fear of a regret as great as the one I feel about signing that letter to Roosevelt urging atomic weapons research in 1939. What I'm discussing here is something of what I've learned of the past and future as places and possibilities in themselves. If, as I believe, war is a disease, then the one from which the world emerged 10 years ago was like a deadly global pandemic. It will be widely remembered for the longest time and well into the next century. Yet, as is perhaps the way with human memory, the battles, bombs, heroism and uniforms will sometimes be venerated more than the underlying values for which that war was fought and won by those opposed to fascism, race discrimination and inhumanity. As a result, it will be some time before one of the greatest treasures of the subsequent peace is properly valued and protected. I speak of the Refugee Convention of 1951. This document is very dear to me, as I have always preferred an international legal order to perpetual war. Also, I was a European refugee in 1933, refused asylum in the United Kingdom before accepting refuge here in the United States of America. Did you know that advanced Western European countries used to incarcerate the poor in so-called debtors' prisons? Imagine the cruelty and futility of that, and yet, well into the next century, many nations will imprison those seeking asylum with either no due process rights at all, or with far inferior fair trial protections to those afforded people accused of serious crimes. As I have said before, the very definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That incarceration will often be indefinite in nature, and some people, including families with children, will be imprisoned for years on end in a variety of formal prisons, euphemistic detention centres and facilities, in refugee camps, and even cages. Yes, this will happen in the enlightened world of the 21st century, and even after men have walked on the moon, women taken full ownership of their own bodies, and people can both communicate and unlock nearly all of recorded human history and learning via keyboards and screens. But two things are infinite: the universe and human stupidity. And I'm not sure about the universe. This policy will obviously come at a very heavy price for these prisoners of the future, but it will cost nations they have fled, those to which they escaped, and wider humanity as well. For these people are scientists, teachers, thinkers, activists, and public servants, just as I was when I was offered a position in American and world society instead of a prison cell in my new home or certain death in my original one. But out of adversity comes opportunity, and whilst the first quarter of the next century will bring great turmoil, it will also bring great catalysts of change. Movements to save our precious planet, its people and its soul, will come together to form an irresistible force for greater peace, equality and sustainability with one generation. People of science, culture and civic action will come together, and along the way some of the barbarism will be consigned to the primitive curiosities of that place called the past, alongside debtors' prison and beliefs in racial supremacy. I leave this message in the hope that it's found by some good people of imagination to whom the knowledge may provide some encouragement. But I hope you'll remember that imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. A. Einstein, Princeton, 1955. Well, perhaps.